So how did you come to be, the mononymed wonder that is Halsey? Because not everyone can get away with just being like a one name situation. So how did it come to be?
I know it was a very very brave choice as a 19-year-old in New York picking one name. I was like, I think my government name is Ashley Frangipani. It's a long name. I've had a lifetime of people not being able to pronounce it and getting it wrong. So when it came time to pick my artist name, I was like, all right, we're gonna do one thing. It's gonna be really simple. I was living on Halsey Street in Brooklyn at the time, and it occurred to me one day, that the letters in Halsey were the same letters in Ashley, so it kind of felt serendipitous and really meant to be. And it was around the time that I had kind of started writing songs in New York. I've always been a writer. I've always been a poet. I've always liked writing, short stories, and reading and literature were a huge part of my life growing up. It's how I learned most of my life lessons, was through my favorite characters, kind of going through them and me getting to go through them with them. And so when it came time to start really writing music, that was what was really important to me, was to have a strong narrative and a sentiment that like a lot of my fans could relate to, no matter what walk of life they came from. But most early on in my career, ironically enough, a lot of my songs kind of focused on the pursuit, the exploration, and the right to seeking pleasure, whether it be love or safety or adventure or experience or something transformative. I was 19, I was living in New York, and I think kind of despite the basic survival, like the basic need for survival of my life at that time, most of my energy, most of my brain power, my woman power was going towards seeking pleasure. What makes me feel alive? What makes me feel good? What makes me feel proud of myself? What makes me feel connected to the people around me? And that really was what early on kind of inspired the music. And it started with my first song, Ghost, which was the first song I had ever written, and kind of turned into an immediate little cult success. It was like had a little bit of a cult following, and the rest is kind of just have been on that roller coaster ever since and haven't looked back.
So tell me about why you chose to collaborate with Magnum on your future projects.
Oh, I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. Like, when I think about some like adjectives about my project, it's like, sometimes it can be very colorful. Sometimes it can be, it is about pleasure, and it is about not taking yourself too seriously, and like, just kind of like embracing something that a bunch of people can come together and enjoy. And, when you're a little kid, if someone says to you when you're a child, they're like, hey, would you like to have a job that's about ice cream? Like, you're going to say yes. And I'm basically a giant kid. So when it came time to, have a job, which I say, in quotes, because it doesn't really feel like one, but to have a job that is about ice cream, like the answer is unequivocally yes. Like there is no question. I was like, sign me up. And the shoot was so much fun because I get to like put on a pink wig and like run around in a dress and have fun and eat ice cream and like celebrate this with a brand that supports me and supports my vision and wants people to be a part of a campaign that's inclusive and is about feeling good and feeling about yourself. And I don't do many partnerships because I'm quite a tough critic about it. And so when Magnum came along, it was like it felt super great, and it's just been so fun. And everyone in the company is just so kind of lives with the same MO as me, which is like, like have fun, be yourself, make positive change in the world. And that's like, it's a no-brainer.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the shoot, because this was done in two different spots. It was done in Paris and in LA. Yeah. So talk to me about Paris.
So Paris was, we were in the middle of my European tour, which has kind of become like a little bit of an urban legend in my fandom, in my fan base, because, we had just started the Manic tour, and I did the tour for about a month and a half. And then obviously the whole world changed overnight, and I went home and I canceled the rest of the tour. And by the time I'm touring again, it's going to be a completely different tour. So it was this little fragment of art and experience that I only went to go do in Europe for a month and a half, a show that no one else will ever see again. Just, quite like the way that I did it there, which was, really, I mean, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And so, to also have this shoot kind of commemorate that time, I think really speaks to the message of the campaign, which is like, my ultimate pleasure seeking is being on stage. I am the greatest version of myself when I'm on stage. Like in real life, I am super clumsy, a little awkward, kind of introverted, and on stage, I'm filled with this like newfound grace and this confidence and stability and focus and control. And that's why I love being on stage so much, is because I get to be kind of like this superhero alter ego version of myself. And the shoot happened at that time. So I was in like a very unique state of mind, where I had been on stage and I was, waking up every day. And my only responsibility every day is to go on stage and show tens of thousands of people a great time and make sure that they have the best night of their life. And like, what a way to live, you know what I mean? Where like you wake up and the only thing you have to do is make people happy and have fun. Like I kind of have the best job in the world. And so the shoot came at that time.
And then lockdown happened, and then LA.
And then LA. So it's actually really interesting because, you get this like version of me in this video portion where I'm in the thick of my tour and I'm completely in that mindset where I'm like, this like transformative, energetic, confident, performer, creative. And then I come home because of lockdown. I'm in LA and I'm like a little more introverted and like kind of comfortable and like reclusive and involved, and I'm like getting to know myself and reconnecting with myself in a way that I haven't had the privilege or pleasure to do in a really long time. Whether it's like I'm in my garden growing vegetables, or I'm getting to cook because I don't get to cook when I'm on tour because I don't ever have a kitchen because there's no kitchen in a hotel room or on a tour bus. And
what vegetables are you cooking right now, Halsey? I'm intrigued. What's the pride of your garden right now?
Oh, I mean, I grow some pretty mean green beans, but also my cucumbers are starting to come in and I'm really excited about that.
Nice.
I know. It's riveting, isn't it? It's like, this is what you would expect from me. It's like, I feel like people get on the interview with me and they think I'm going to have some crazy story to tell. And I'm like, no, just growing vegetables.
No, but that is the whole point of this collaboration with Magnum. It's about not judging what people find pleasurable, whether it's, I don't know, dancing in your kitchen by yourself, or making sure that you like video call like your parents, or drawing, or like, I don't know, like singing in the shower. Like that is the whole point. It's about not judging people's pleasure, right?
Yeah, and I do all those things, so you kind of nailed it.
Now, Halsey, you believe that nobody should ever be held back from pursuing what makes them happy. So how do you encourage others to be true to pleasure themselves?
Most recently, one of the things that we've done is we launched the Black Creators Funding Initiative, which was an idea that we had wanted to do for a really long time. And, it kind of culminated at a moment where I think a lot of people really needed it the most. And most of it is about focusing on highlighting young Black creators who maybe might not get the same opportunities as other people because of, socioeconomic obstacles, or, because of any kind of, sort of prejudice that's existing in the process of selecting these individuals. And they are all so outrageously talented. I've seen her
on your Instagram. Like I love the sight of just all the different tiles and all the and everyone's individual stories. Like it's a really great, unique bunch of people, because Black people are not a monolith, as we know. And it's been really lovely to see, like, just a selection of talent that you found, for sure.
Magnum got behind, the initiative, which was really exciting because initially I had just intended to fund it myself, and then having Magnum participate took it to a next level. And we got to help a lot of people that we probably otherwise wouldn't have gotten to help. And ultimately the whole focus of the campaign is like, these are all people who have dedicated their lives to the thing that makes them happy, to their craft, And I remember what that feeling is like. I remember having ideas and not having the resources to bring them to life. I remember walking through art stores, walking through, paint stores in New York, and looking at the paints and the canvases on the walls and thinking what I could make if I could simply just afford to buy these things. Or, you know, working on music and thinking if someone would just give me a chance, you know, the album I could make, the videos I could make. And like, you know, I watch people struggle with that, you know, to this day, you know, presently. And, you know, I'm just excited to be a part of it. And I think a lot of these are going to be ongoing relationships because I'm really inspired by a lot of these people, and they've made a place in my heart now. So they've become friends. And I think, you know, the communication is going to continue beyond. And like, ultimately, everyone should have the opportunity to do what makes them happy.
How do you try and be true to your pleasure every day? How do you maintain that?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. You know, I think that kind of what I do for a living is definitely the culmination of all of my different types of pleasure seeking, whether it's wanting to get to know people, wanting to travel the world, wanting to make great art, make videos, make songs. Like, you know, I kind of took all those things and packaged them into the perfect career for me because I get to kind of flex all my creative muscles in a bunch of different ways. And you know, one of my greatest pleasures is people. You know what I mean? Like, I consider myself like a person of like very deep empathy, sometimes to the point of a flaw. But what that means is that I really like get to connect with people and get to know them. And I have had the opportunity to access millions of people all over the world that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to access. And, you know, in some weird way, I kind of feed off of that in a little way. Like, all these little human connections are kind of fueling me and motivating me. But it's also been really important for me to learn how to, you know, seek pleasure in a way that's like a little kind of self-important. Because, you know, being a person of interest in kind of like this like global celebrity world, it's like you give a lot of yourself away all the time. And everything happened for me very fast. So I kind of just like was caught in this whirlwind, and one day was like, oh my goodness, like, what am I doing for me? Do I have any secrets? Do I have anything that I keep to myself? Do I have any guilty pleasures? Do I have any, you know, things I do for fun that aren't just about the job? And that's kind of when I started doing, like I said, things like gardening, because, you know, gardening is a silly thing, right? It's a silly thing. You're making a garden. But for me, gardening was an absolute metaphorical testament to my ability to remain grounded and to remain attentive to something, to literally grow something from a seed. It meant that I could stay focused and stay in one place and be comfortable for long enough to watch something grow and then cook it and eat it. And I know it sounds silly because we're talking about a garden, but for me, you know, it was a very, very symbolic thing for me about how I've managed to kind of slow down and focus on what's in front of me and kind of get back to basics in a way, in a world where everything is like so overstimulating and just simply not basic ever.